There's just nothing you can do. It's uncanny, but there's nothing you can do. I'll start crying there. That'll take about I give myself 3 minutes just to make sure the crying and everything really build it up. And if that doesn't get her, I don't know what will. If she doesn't say, oh, John, is there anything I can do? And I'll say, I can't ask you. Oh, please, John, take me now. And I'll say, oh, Estelle. I mean, Judy. And she'll say, no, John, say what's ever in your heart. If it's Estelle, it's Estelle, and I know that sooner or later you'll love me, and everything will be fine. And I'll say, yeah, let's see, that ought to take about 2 more minutes. And, oh, John, take me. And so I'll get her up against the ledge here, and then I'll kiss her a few times, and then I'll start undoing her blouse, make sure she's facing the camera. So I have to turn to be a little awkward, but I'll get her there. Let's see, and that ought to, yeah, that's 26 and a half minutes. 26 and a half minutes. It's now 9:57. I have to be there at 10 o'clock. It's 9:57 plus 20 seconds. That gives me 40 seconds. 39, 38, 37, 36, 35.
A modern day remake of Matthew Vaughn's Lay a Kick, a Coen Brothers end up with Timothy Chalamet. A Citizen Kane prequel, a Midnight Cowboy sequel, Alvin and the Chipmunks deserve another squeakquel. There's so many new ways to revisit sideways, but a graphic novel is how we choose to update. But we still hold fast, you can't change the past on the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings! This one-word complete sentence, though once more commonplace, is now mostly seen in the first line of emails or spoken by men donning a fedora or little gray aliens in cartoons. But in 1968, this complete sentence was also the title of Brian De Palma's black comedy, the story of 3 ne'er-do-wells who are avoiding the Vietnam draft by exploring their personal passions of love, smut, and the JFK assassination's conspiracy theories. And 2 years later, it will be followed up with a pseudo-sequel that bears another full-sentence title. Greetings, Starfighters. I'm John, joined as always by my brother Dan. And on this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we're talking about the 1970s social satire Hi Mom, the story of a man just trying to make his mark on any part of society that will accept him. Dan, we are like so many Brian De Palma movies deep. I feel like we're so close to just like saying, screw it, let's just do all of them. Let's just do all the rest of them. And I'd be okay with that.
And we do have so many more Brian De Palma films that we haven't covered.
Yeah.
Although I will say I was surprised as I realized that this is, I believe, only the second Robert De Niro film that we're covering.
Is that true?
We did Midnight
How is that
Run,
possible? We sure did.
and there was nothing else. We have not done another De Niro film. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Wow.
I looked through the filmography and I said, no, we have not done. I mean, hey, if we do the De Palma thing, we'll do Untouchables. So,
and The Wedding Party.
right. Yeah.
Which is the one that followed up this movie, I believe.
Yeah.
But I think that's it for him and De Palma. Yeah, I mean, we haven't done Taxi Driver. Wow.
Analyze this.
Yeah.
Analyze that.
No, I mean, although those are full sentence titles, and that
Yeah.
is the theme of this season of the podcast, is movies that have full sentence titles.
Right.
And Hi Mom is a really fun one. We've covered so many that are so long. I like the really short ones.
Yeah.
And when we picked Hi Mom, I don't think that it even really occurred to us that Greetings, one of Brian De Palma's 1968 movies, he had one other one, was technically the first movie, although it's like this stands alone.
Yeah.
And I don't know, have you seen Greetings?
I started watching it. I just didn't finish it, mostly just because of time.
Yeah.
The time available to me. And, but I definitely started it. And did you watch it? I assume you watched it.
I watched, I'd say about like 85% of it.
Okay.
And I did a little bit of skipping around because some of the scenes are very drawn out.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it after I watched Hi Mom. And I was curious to see where the connective tissue lies, aside from it just being the same character. Like, is there a follow-up to anything that's really going on? And there is a scene where, and I'm pretty sure it's the same guy, but he's having a chat with the guy who he is meeting with at the beginning, not the very beginning, not the Charles Durning character, but
Right.
the beginning of Hi Mom.
Alan Garfield.
Who had given him the business card that was basically just like, I'll give you money for smut.
Right.
And, and it's this guy that's basically a smut peddler.
Well, and that was, so, I mean,
sleazy one.
Yeah. Well, I guess, well, I'll do the synopsis in a moment too, but, no, that's Alan Garfield, who we've talked about before. He's in Nashville, as he's the,
I can picture him. Yeah.
He's the manager for
husband slash manager. Is that right?
Yeah. For I forget the name of the, singer in it.
Right.
Was that Karen Black?
It's that the Karen Black character.
Yeah, it was the singer.
I think so.
Who's like, has the nervous breakdown. And Alan Garfield was, so you constantly see him.
Okay.
And he's in
that totally tracks.
He's in Jaws, as I believe I think he's also in now I'm thinking I'm confusing him with somebody else. I think
that's Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh God, I always confuse them. Oh no, you know what? Maybe I am thinking of somebody. No, I was thinking of, there is like a guy who works with the mayor in Jaws.
Oh,
but
okay.
That's not,
he seems like the kind of guy that would work with the mayor from Jaws.
Right. Yeah.
That's, so yes. It's like, sure, you may as well have been there.
He's also like the police chief in Beverly Hills Cop 2 when Axel Foley does the Johnny Wishbone character, the psychic, that he says that he's a psychic brought in. And
God.
so that's Alec. And he was in The Candidate.
Love The Candidate.
Yeah. So Alan Garfield's he was in Dick Tracy. Quite.
We did that one a long time ago.
Well, also like his 70s movie cred. Oh, he's also in Greetings. Like
I said earlier, yes, that is the same
Putney
guy.
Swope, The Conversation. Yeah, Alan Garfield.
Conversation.
Yeah.
Dang.
And
dude worked.
And hey, we're from New Jersey. Alan Garfield is a Jersey guy.
Is he?
Yep, he's from Newark.
There you go. All right.
Totally
same
makes
neck
sense.
of the woods, pretty much.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, so the Greetings connection with Hi Mom, they totally stand on their own. I feel like you don't need to have known anything about Jon Rubin before his time in Hi Mom, because you don't really get to know too much about him even in Greetings.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in Hi Mom, I don't think he identifies himself as Jon Rubin until the end, until the last scene.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
Which
I think, does he give his name? Because he gives a fake name when he meets, is it Judy, the Jennifer Salt character? He gives a fake name.
Yeah.
It's a very strange movie. It's a very strange movie, and it's so different from ones that we normally cover because it is, it's very avant-garde and experimental, and while still being like, social satire, and it plays a lot with perspective, and it puts the audience into the position of the filmmaker at times, and it really goes there.
Yeah, it's interesting. So like, I don't know about you, but my kind of pre-informed impression as I was forming my impressions of filmmakers, I would say in the 90s, and seeing that school of 70s filmmakers, that cool crew of Coppola, Scorsese, throw Spielberg in there, and De Palma was part of that crew. And I always felt, I was like, I mean, okay, I guess not counting Spielberg, I guess thinking about Coppola, Scorsese, and De Palma, I think I always imagined De Palma to be like, kind of the most commercial of the filmmakers.
That's really interesting.
And I'm certainly the most like looking at especially his 60s and 70s filmography, it's like, wow, this guy was making choices. He was taking risks.
He was definitely doing
especially
something
with this
really
movie.
strange. Yeah, I mean, and also when you look at the early films of a lot of those other guys, and I'll also include like George Lucas,
Oh,
you see a lot, who's like, a little bit later, but like you see a lot more like their early work is very polished and they want it to look like a real movie, I feel.
Less so
Whereas
for Scorsese.
De Palma-
less so for
Scorsese, right?
But even his like Who's That Knocking at My Door?
Yeah.
Even though it has kind of like the same, like that same kind of a similar vibe, it's not as out there. It's like De Palma is really firing shots with these movies, with Hi Mom and
oh my God.
and with, I mean, what I saw of Greetings, and like definitely taking risks that could potentially alienate an audience. We'll get into that.
Oh my God, so much.
We're going to get into that.
Yeah.
We're going to, it's going to come up again, but a film that I have been bringing up frequently is going to come up again today.
Oh, okay. Well, just because we're talking about, Newark, New Jersey native Brian De Palma, it's, worthwhile just to look at the movies that came just after this. We mentioned, well, The Wedding Party was right before Hi Mom.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have like Get to Know Your Rabbit, that's a movie that has Tom Smothers and John Astin and Catherine Ross and Orson Welles is in that one. And then Sisters, which we've talked about, which I think is a little bit, it certainly has some of that same DNA from the movies that we're talking about today, but it has a more linear storytelling structure. And then we have Phantom of the Paradise, which we've talked about. And then there's Obsession with John Lithgow and Carrie. And, you can tell that, like, especially considering like Get to Know Your Rabbit, that gives credibility to these early movies that are so bizarre and structurally different from what people are probably used to seeing from a young director, to like take a chance. But I think that what's very clear is his perspective and the creative ways that he is telling an audience what he's all about. And I can see that being very appealing to actors during that time, because, not every movie was trying to make a statement, and De Palma certainly was going for it.
And certainly knowing, a little bit about De Niro's background, that, grew up in, I want to say, in Greenwich Village, and his family were artists. It feels very simpatico between, what De Niro would have been interested in doing at that time in his career, connected to what De Palma wanted to do. It felt like they were very much in sync, and obviously a great pairing. They did 4 or 5 films together.
Well, yeah, they came up together, and I mean, I don't know for sure. I'd have to look it up, but it seems to me like, did they go to, I feel like we talked about this in Phantom of the Paradise, because I think that he went to school with like Garrett Graham.
Yeah,
and
Columbia.
William Finley. Did they go to Columbia? I wasn't sure if it was Columbia or NYU.
No, he went. Yeah,
So I wasn't sure if Robert De Niro was part of that same crew, or if he was somebody that they just met in the, in their combined circles.
No, I think he was someone that, right, they met in their combined circles. And I mean, also it's worth noting that they filmed The Wedding Party much earlier in 1963. And
was that 63 they filmed it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
It wasn't released till 19. This is as per Wikipedia.
Oh,
but
interesting.
But yeah, De Palma, I think was living and working in Greenwich Village and making, doing, documentaries, but also like, kind of on more of the experimental side, like his documentary Dionysus in '69, about a production of the Bacchae, which was where William Finley, which I think how
that makes sense,
started working with William Finley. It definitely feels like they were just part of that really like exciting experimental artistic scene.
Yeah. And I think that I was assuming that there was some sort of NYU connection just because of where the filming locations for Hi Mom are predominantly, which is like the East Village.
Yeah.
And right in that NYU area. And we're going to get into Hi Mom a lot more, but I believe that the building that is kind of the focal point of this movie, or at least the first third of the movie and the latter half of the movie as well. I think that that's like owned by NYU, at least it is now. And so I think that it's like somewhat affordable housing intended for students.
Right. That makes sense.
I tried to look it up, and also, I was also just looking up to see like, how much would an apartment go for in that building now? And it's just like, God, extraordinary. It's just completely bananas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those neighborhoods, like I lived on the north end of the East Village for a few years. And even since then, it's become more gentrified. Like when I moved out of that neighborhood, there were still a lot of like, not a lot of franchises, not a lot of like big stores, a lot of independent places. Yeah. And then like going back a few years later, there was a Target nearby. And
oh yeah.
So right. So those neighborhoods, I mean, even like, Alphabet City, which, I remember the movie 200 Cigarettes. They're all like, the girls coming in from Ronkonkoma, Long Island are, scared to go to Alphabet City. And like, that's where Rent is set. And like Alphabet City is, so nobody involved in Rent could afford Alphabet City.
God, no.
These days. So that's one of the things I love about watching these old movies set in New York.
Well, what's also great about this particular New York set movie is that we're seeing a different kind of New York than we're like usually seeing in New York movies.
Yeah.
Even though like it's a stone's throw away from a lot of the places that you would be focusing on in a New York movie of this time. This just shows like a very real slice of New Yorker life. And, we have an apartment where, at the very beginning, which I think that's just its own separate little like sketch that they pretty much have going on. But like Charles Durning is showing Robert De Niro this, terrible apartment that's like falling apart and everything. And it's, super cheap and stuff, but it's just like, yeah, but you know what? One thing that's always going to be true about New York is that people will pay whatever they have to just to live there, even if it's like a piece of crap apartment.
Right.
They'll deal with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it suits his needs. Jon Rubin's needs, the Robert De Niro character in this.
Yeah. And before you do a synopsis, I just got to say, De Niro looks great in this movie. I love his look. I love the way he carries himself. It feels like what is likely the truth, where it's just like a real person that is not a famous person, just kind of like trying to, put on a good performance in a wacky, satire. And he's so good and he feels so comfortable in it. And this is long before he was the Robert De Niro of all of these, incredible other performances that he's done later that defined him.
I mean, I think you have pre-Taxi Driver and post-Taxi Driver.
That's really it.
I think this is like, and this is one of those movies like you can definitely see in the performance the like roots of how this actor would make the ideal Travis Bickle in Taxi Driver.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Aside from the fact that De Niro is just a fabulous actor.
Absolutely. He's incredible. So hit us with a synopsis.
After an aspiring pornographer fails to make good on his deal to make a truly voyeuristic smut film through the windows of a New York City apartment building, he attempts to insert himself into his own film, leading to a phony relationship appearing in a social justice live theater experiment, and ultimately destroying the new life he created for himself. And yeah, in addition to Robert De Niro, I mean, we've kind of already talked about the other, prominent names in this. Jennifer Salt, who was the journalist in Sisters, and Garrett Graham, who
wonderful
from Beef in Phantom of the Paradise.
So good.
Also has one of my favorite lines in Stuart Saves His Family, as we discussed on that episode.
Yeah.
As he says, would you like the dressing on the side? On the salad!
Yeah.
Playing so like the opposite of, that's why it's so interesting seeing him as this kind of hippie.
Yeah. I think that the first time that I took note of him was in My Girl 2.
Right.
And I think that we talked about this on the Phantom of the Paradise episode, but he plays just like this hoity-toity guy who's, flirting with one of the other characters,
Like Jamie Lee Curtis or... Yeah.
No, because at this point she's still with Dan Aykroyd. So, okay, Veda Sultanfus goes to L.A. to stay with her uncle and his girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
And his girlfriend owns this auto body shop, and Garrett Graham plays a character that's flirting with her.
Got it.
He's like coming in like a vintage roadster kind of car.
Right, yeah. And he also plays,
so he's just this pompous douche.
And actually, you know what? He's he also worked with De Niro again. Well, not really with although they did have a scene together in 1993's This Boy's Life, which I've seen numerous times because I, as a language arts teacher, have taught the book.
And we talked about it recently, I think when we did our What's Eating Gilbert Grape episode.
Yeah.
But I watched This Boy's Life. What part did he play in that one?
He's the alumni from the prep school that meets with Toby.
Oh, yes.
And Toby's trying to pretend he doesn't, like the guys who come in and are talking really vulgar, and Garrett Graham and like Leonardo DiCaprio is kind of like acting embarrassed, and Garrett Graham is like, it's prep school, that like boys will talk like that, and that happens.
Yeah.
And I can tell you're sensitive about it. But he's funny because he drives a sports car in that, but he and De Niro have a scene. De Niro plays the abusive stepfather, and they have a scene when they walk out of the, drugstore or soda fountain, wherever they're having
the Five and Dime,
and
Jimmy Dean,
and De Niro comes up to them, and is making comments, and Garrett Graham's character is like, "Who's that guy?" And DiCaprio's like, "He's just the town drunk."
Yeah.
So, so it actually really, really cool. It just occurred to me. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I did.
No, that's really funny. And Garrett Graham was also in Greetings, but playing a very different character.
Right. Yeah. Which actually,
he's the character that's the one that's obsessed with the JFK conspiracies and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it's really fun. I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, he's a really fun actor.
He's got such an expressive face, which he uses, every single second he's on frame in Phantom of the Paradise.
He brought some extras in for Phantom of the Paradise.
He sure did.
He installed some facial muscles there. Oh, and John, how are we possibly forgetting? No, you know where we both know Garrett Graham from first? He's part of the Wilson Heights gang in Police Academy 6, City Under Siege.
Oh my God. Okay, first of all, I'm so glad that you brought that up. I used to write and record music and perform as the Wilson Heights gang, first of all. But I was thinking about the end of City Under Siege the other day.
Of course.
I don't know why I didn't text you about it, because it seems like I would have. But there was... I was scrolling through like Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and do you ever see videos on your feed of slapping competitions?
No.
Okay. So these are like professional fights, and it's like there's a men's division and a women's division, so it's either a man and a man or a woman and a woman, and they just take turns slapping each other, and they're kind of at like this kind of podium thing, and they'll, just stare each other down or whatever. And they're like these big dudes. So I was watching one and it was just these colossal guys going back and forth, slapping each other. And it reminded me of Hightower at the end of City Under Siege in the fight that he has with the other his counterpart from the Wilson Heights gang.
Of course.
So, wow, I totally spaced on that being Garrett Graham. Oh my God.
I'm glad I made a note of it because I forgot about it. And yeah, my note says I always forget that he was also part of the Wilson Heights gang.
Yeah, he's kind of like the leader. He's the Mahoney of the, kind of crew, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah, isn't he, is he the one making the goofy faces? We don't need to get into Police Academy 6 right now.
Oh my God.
Another time. But yes. So Garrett Graham, I mean, wow. Like, we are fans of Garrett Graham on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are like officially, we're locked in. We're into Garrett Graham on here. What a great guest he would be to have.
Oh my God. Is he still with us?
I hope so.
Well, while you're looking that up, I will say he puts on an amazing performance in Hi Mom. He is the only white member of an all black social justice performance group that has this mission to demonstrate for people how it feels to be black, like the experience of a black person. He's the only white person in the group, and part of his thing is painting himself like jet black.
And
like,
speaking of his,
and as we see,
speaking of his
body.
thing,
yes.
So that was what made the difference between an R and an X rating for this movie. The original cut, he painted his penis black and they gave it an X rating. And which,
wild that keeping it not painted is what made it R.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, really interesting. But then when he's part of the show, he's not.
No,
he's actually, he's like playing one of the audience members.
Sure.
Who's there. Or isn't he playing like a critic?
So to explain it a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're putting on this show where it's an experiential cinema performance, a Sleep No More type situation. Well before that time, where a small group of audience members come in, and of course they are all white, and they go through all of these things that demonstrate the black experience. So they eat these, what they would consider to be like black foods.
They have soul food.
Black-eyed peas and
chitlins. Right.
And yeah, exactly. And then they painted their faces, and the black people who are putting this performance on paint their faces to look white. And then it gets even darker because there's a lot of very physically aggressive moments. There's a disrobing of an audience member that is, well, it's no consent given.
Oh yeah, I was going to say it. I mean, it's like rape.
Yeah. And the entire time as an audience member, you're just like, what is going on? Like, as somebody watching the movie, you're just like, what is going on right now?
Right. And
what is this movie turning into?
Right. And like one of the women, one of the, the white women in the audience has her purse taken, and then they tell her like, oh, it's okay. It's fine. They just put it in this other room and everything's fine. And this whole experience culminates with a police officer, it's De Niro, it's, Jon Rubin.
Played by Jon Rubin.
Right,
yeah.
Posing, right, because as mentioned in the synopsis, after things go wrong, and actually this is where Garrett Graham's penis comes into it, because, so yeah, just to kind of set it up quickly, so Jon Rubin has decided to actually make himself a character in his smut film, and he has this relationship with Judy, the Jennifer Salt character, and he sets up his camera to film them having sex like up by the window, but the tripod, like the camera slips down.
It
so
tilts down,
when De
yeah.
Niro brings the film to Alan Garfield's character, as you see, like, John and Judy are going to start having sex, it pans down and you just see Garrett Graham naked, painting himself, and then like looking at his unpainted penis.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do I or don't
So
I?
so just to kind of take it even one step further back. What?
Oh, okay. No, because I was gonna say, like, that's when Rubin decides to audition for this group,
Right.
and be part of the group, which is how he gets cast as the cop who comes in,
Yeah.
and arrests.
But to take it even a step further back. So John essentially convinces this, porn peddler to front him the money and the supplies to make this concept for a voyeuristic porn, because he's like, you set it up right and you have this perfect view and you get to see right into the windows of these places, whatever. And of course you're going to see the real stuff that's going on and everything. And it turns out there's nothing really salacious about what's going on. It's all very normal looking stuff. And, there's some interesting stuff going on, but nothing that would really be for, the purpose of this.
Right.
So that's why he has to kind of like manufacture something. So he notices that in one of the apartments, there's this girl who lives there who, all of her friends are there getting ready to go out, but they all go out without her. And she's by herself and she's lonely.
They all
he
have
kind of
boyfriends,
sees
yeah.
her as a bit of a... They all have boyfriends, yeah. So he sees her as kind of a target.
Yeah.
Where he's just like... And what's also funny is he comes up with this whole plan on how to seduce her. And it starts with, saying that he got the wrong address from a computer dating service. So Brian De Palma must have been obsessed with the idea of computer dating because it's a big part of Greetings.
Right.
So the whole computer dating thing, I think, is really funny. And so that's how he initiates things between himself and Judy. And then he has his plan set up for he's going to go back there for a date and everything. But he has the camera on a timer. So he thinks he's going to have to spend a certain amount of time like warming her up and like getting her in the mood, not realizing that he was going to go over there and she was going to be ready to go. So he has to kill time.
And this is, by the way,
it's time for...
This is, by the way, after they have gone out, they've gone out a couple of times.
They went out. Yeah, they went out.
He took her to Howard Johnson's.
He took her to Howard Johnson's. They got a slice of pizza after. An interesting move. But so this one was like, hey, gonna seal the deal, gonna record this and everything. And, but he timed it out, not realizing that she was going to be ready to go right away. So he had to come up with an excuse to dip out. And there's this wonderful scene where he's at the pharmacy trying to buy condoms and having this long exchange with this very strange pharmacist. It was really funny and so weird. And then of course he, gets back up there and the camera starts rolling and he hooked up to this thing where he would see his light go on when it would start going. And then of course the crappy little tripod just gives way to the weight. So yeah, and Garrett Graham lives in the apartment building and is putting up posters for the show and the elevator and everything. And I don't know if I would have easily been able to put together why John was drawn to performing. He sees the casting call for this cop role. And you have to do a little bit of work to kind of put the pieces together. It's not laid out for you. And it really just feels to me he knows that this one way of doing something creative is not working out. So he's going to try something else. And after that experience, he tries to make a name for himself in a very different way.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it because it's so unexpected.
Right. Yeah. just to go back to the show called Be Black Baby.
Yeah.
It's so, and worth noting that at the end of, like, after the show, they're interviewing all of the white people who've come to the show, and of course they're raving about it.
And by they, you mean like the news?
Oh,
is coming
sorry.
to, like,
I mean, yeah, I guess. I was never quite sure who was filming certain things because I knew it wasn't Jon filming it. So I was never quite certain, but you see them being interviewed on camera and talking about, and I think one of them even references like, yeah, Clive Barnes was right in the New York Times about this, and they're raving about it. And I thought that was so brilliant and so funny because I think that was a lot of the, you think of, like, quote unquote wokeness in the late 60s, early
performative
70s.
Wokeness.
Right, right. Very performative wokeness was, and like, because they come to this place and they're terrorized. And I mean, granted, there's a purpose to it all. And that's where this movie, that's where it really reminded me of Spike Lee's Bamboozled.
You talk about it so much.
I do talk about it so much, and I rewatched it, and like, and I did research to see if Spike Lee was, like, kind of nodding to this or inspired by it. There's no documented. It's not in the commentary on Bamboozled, but so Bamboozled. Let me just give a quick synopsis, because it's not easily available. I know it was streaming on Canopy for a while, and it's available through the Criterion Collection. So the setup of Bamboozled is that Damon Wayans plays a writer, comedy writer for a network, and the head of the network, or the head of the comedy division, wants something new and exciting and puts him under pressure, and he and it's Michael Rappaport plays the head, and it's kind of like,
for better or worse,
and you can tell, right? And fortunately you're not supposed to like him in this, so and you can tell that, and because he's asking for, like, he's like, yeah, man, give me something like black, and so what Damon Wayans comes up with, and he decides to hire, there are these two buskers played by Tommy Davidson and Savion Glover, who are always outside the network, and whenever they see him, they're like, hey, come on, give us a shot, give us a chance at this. And he hires them and creates a minstrel show. It's called Mantans, and he names the characters after the popular characters from minstrel shows, and they go through the history, and of course, it's Spike Lee, so he's showing, actual clips, and there's, footage mixed in of these actual performers. But it's the New Millennium Minstrel Show, and it's supposed to be what Spike Lee was really inspired by with this was the producers, because he thinks like, oh, this is going to bomb and it is going to destroy the network, and he's like, and I'll be free, and it's a huge hit. And of course, white people love it. And you see that they start coming in, and the studio audience, they put them in blackface.
Right.
And they're like, and there's all of these, there's all of these taglines that include racial slurs. I'm not going to quote them.
Oh my God.
But they have like the whole audience screaming them out on cue.
Yeah. And, and I think that that's an interesting way to differentiate the way that you can tell this kind of story between a black filmmaker and a white filmmaker. Because Brian De Palma, who I'm sure has a very specific perspective, has these concerns of, well, how do I demonstrate this without it feeling performative? And he did it, I think, the exact right way, is to, instead of pointing out the way that people are racist, point out the way that people are being performatively woke, which is a form of racism. And I applaud him for like pulling it off the way that he did. Well, I mean, and I wish that there was a way to, I don't know, like catch this vibe in a different way, but he just nailed it in such a creative way.
Well, and there's also a subtlety to the and there's an observation of the fact that, like, yeah, after the performance, the audience they go home. They go out, they get the shoe polish is washed off their faces, and they go home and they have the luxury to say, like, you know, oh, that was, yes, what an experience that was, and love it. And I do think that De Palma is aware of that irony of that they didn't get what they just experienced, and they didn't leave angry and saying, like, you know, oh, that was terrible, we need to stop this, like this is how it is, oh, this needs to end.
Yeah, no, I think it's
much like in Bamboozled.
It's just so smart. Yeah, it's so smart. And honestly, like, when I first was watching it, I was like, this movie feels so disjointed and I'm not sure how we got here. But then, like, when you sit with it for a while, it starts to just, like, really come together and make a whole lot of sense. And it's funny because, like, when you read the description for this movie someplace else, I think that it assumes that someone's coming to it having seen Greetings, because never that I can recall in this movie does it mention the fact that Jon Rubin was in Vietnam, whereas but in all of the plot descriptions that you see online, it says, you know, Vietnam vet. Well, and it's like, that doesn't really matter as much as a storytelling component, because if you watch Greetings, he's acting the same way he was acting before he went to Vietnam in that movie.
Well, and I guess my question is that really him? Is he playing the same character? He only gives the name at the end after he has given a series of fake names throughout.
Yeah, I think that it is him just because he acts the same way that he acts. Like, the character acts the same way in both movies. You know, he encounters people and tells them, you know, bullshit stories in order to get them to be part of his, you know, performances. So in Greetings, there's this woman that he approaches, and he was like, okay, I've got this idea for this, you know, this art piece. And he's making up a story about how, like, somebody from, like, the Guggenheim or whatever, the curator, is going to be, you know, doing this thing with him or whatever. And so he's talking about doing this thing where, like, you would see somebody through a window of a building, and it would, I think, be like a frosted glass situation. So you would mostly see, like, silhouette. And so he's just like, and he's talking about it, and he's like, and I think that you'd be the perfect person. This is just a woman that he's just basically meeting off the street. And so it really just ends up with, you know, him directing her to, like, you know, performatively, you know, undress and things like that, until he eventually just kind of jumps into the scene, if you will, and you know, we assume that there's some business that goes on between them. But it's like, he's not a sincere person. He's doing things just to get the reaction. He's doing things just to, you know, weasel his way through his whole experience. And we see that also, of course, with his relationship with Judy. He puts on a completely different voice, and he says all of these things about, you know, his job and everything, which is all complete BS. And it's not because he wants to sleep with her, because he is sleeping with her, but it's just to, like, put on a show, and it's not for anybody. It's just for him. And he's just directing the way that this is all going down with these very impulsive actions. And it's a very similar, you know, that's why I think that it's the same character between the two movies, just because, like, the actions make a lot of sense. And of course, the way that he carries himself, and the way that he dresses, and the way that he talks and everything. And it just made sense. But it's like, that's why, calling it a pseudo sequel makes a lot of sense, because it's like, okay, this is the same character name between the two, and it's the person acting the same, but like, there really is nothing that you gain by watching Greetings and then watching Hi Mom.
Right.
It's more of like a curiosity to be like, oh yeah, let's see more from this character who, the story doesn't track between the two. It's like watching, like a cartoon or something where, what Bugs Bunny did with Elmer Fudd one episode ago has nothing to do with what he's going to be doing in the next episode of Daffy Duck.
They don't refer
but
back to it.
But you still know
right.
it's the same guy with the same motive.
He doesn't see Garrett Graham and be like, damn, you look just like my friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And what's, though it's interesting because coming back to Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of ways similar to Travis Bickle. Travis Bickle is definitely goes more extreme, though. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
yeah,
yes and no.
yes and no. Well, Travis Bickle enters into a more dangerous world where there are more people in this world that he's in are kind of unsuspecting, and they're not like, he's not encountering, pimps like Harvey Keitel.
Yeah. Travis Bickle, dare I say, is a more sympathetic character than Jon Rubin.
Well, I think Travis Bickle wears more of that trauma from Vietnam on his sleeve. Even though he doesn't talk about it, he wears the jacket. He's identified as a vet. Also, you get all of the monologue from him where he talks about, like, I'm God's lonely man, and like, I'm gonna, whatever, clean the trash off the streets.
Right.
And he goes on this mission, but there's still a lot of like, he still has these weird, he definitely still likes to go on awkward dates. He takes Sybil Shepherd to the porn theater in Taxi Driver.
The king of awkward dates.
Yeah. But also like, he kind of puts on a show for her and kind of puts on a character for her, like when he goes into the office where she's working for the political candidate, and kind of talks up how he wants to get involved and he wants to work, and he's really just doing it because
one of these days he wants to get organized.
He's going to get organized. Yeah. He's going to get himself one of those stickers. Yeah. So, I mean, like, yeah, I think that's what kind of led me to think like, maybe he's not playing the same character, but I also didn't watch enough of Greetings to really, get a good sense of the character.
Right.
But just the way that he doesn't give you his name until the end, and when he does, he's in public and he's on camera when he does it. I don't think
titular line.
I don't think I'm giving anything away there.
No. Yeah. Yeah, and like we were saying before, it's all a big performance. It's all just to kind of make a mark.
Yeah.
And, contribute to culture.
It brings me back to the lines, as Garrett Graham's lines during Be Black Baby, because I guess his job is to keep people from leaving, because he says it's just part of the play. This happens every performance. They didn't really hurt anyone. And which was crazy to me, because to me, it felt like he was also suggesting that like it's part of the play, meaning that like in our society, this is the role that has been assigned to Black people. And, that also like, white people, specifically like racists who, the Black cast of Be Black Baby are definitely, these are not, kind white people that they're portraying, but that like, those are the also like, it's just part of the play. I'm sure it's part of the play. Like saying that, suggesting it's a play and these are the roles that we play in society, and, also kind of like shrugging it off. And that's, kind of what the the media does, and they didn't really hurt anyone, and it happens all the time, and what they were doing with the racism and the violence, especially during the the 60s.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's an impactful movie. I'm really glad that we watched it and got a chance to talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's otherwise I don't know if I ever would have taken the time. Although I do feel, so compelled to go through all of De Palma's movies.
Right.
As we do this podcast, the more I see things about them that I just really love. Even though I feel like I was exposed to ones that didn't do it for me early on, things like Scarface.
Right.
And
which is,
I'd
I think,
curious.
Which is where I think Scarface and like things like Scarface really gave me gave me that impression that like he's the commercial director of them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look what happened to that movie and what it became for so many people. But I think that like if I watch a lot more of his other movies again and then go back to Scarface, I might see it differently.
Yeah, I was wondering that. Yeah. I was thinking about that. Yeah, wondering about it. I'm not quite ready to go back to Scarface.
And also like The Untouchables, that was one that like never really did it for me, but like I want to watch it again because I feel like I'd see a lot more in it now, understanding more about Brian De Palma. Yeah.
And then eventually you got to watch The Bonfire of the Vanities and see what happened there.
Did he do Bonfire of the Vanities?
He did Bonfire of the Vanities. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on. Yeah.
You could go on. But let me ask you the question that we talk about all the time on this podcast. What would you do with Hi Mom given the opportunity to revisit it on your own?
Well, and first of all, before I go into that, it is worth noting that there is a 4K Blu-ray release of Hi Mom coming on May 19th of this year, May 19th, 2026. Oh. It is scheduled so right around the corner.
Does it, talk about any special features or anything?
Oh, I didn't see that. I just saw on the Wikipedia page that it was going to be,
oh, okay. Does it say who's distributing it?
Radiance Films.
Okay, I don't know Radiance. Interesting though. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So, that should really be fun. And hold on, I'm going onto their website right now.
Yeah,
because I'm really
4K release. This is a really beautiful looking movie. It's clearly a very low budget film. It's shot on, cheap stock.
Yeah.
And it's so appropriate for New York of that time.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I love it.
The grit and the grime. Yeah. Kind of also like in a few ways in that sense, brought to mind the Landlord.
Oh, yeah, Landlord. Yeah, for sure.
Right. No.
Another, racial social satire, black comedy.
Mm-hmm.
About, made by a white director talking about the experience of being white and trying and being on the more woke side of things.
Right.
I don't know if he's completely woke, but
Hal Ashby? Or
no,
the character.
I mean, Beau Bridges' character.
Beau Bridges' character, right. I'm like, Hal Ashby,
Hal Ashby,
probably pretty woke.
Yes.
I'm guessing, of course.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. All right. So what would I do? What I was thinking about coming out of this was all of the like real experimental theater companies of the 1960s and 70s in New York, and how interesting it would be to see a film about, the living theater, Judith Malina, Julian Beck. Also just because I love movies set at, in that time period and in that place. But to see a movie about, you could do that whole scene, La Mama, trying to think of some of the other experimental theater companies. The Living Theater was the one
that's the one that I've heard of.
Right. That was the one I thought about most. But yeah, I guess there were some other, there were a lot of other experimental companies operating in Lower Manhattan. at that time, and whether you were to focus on one of them or make a film about that scene and how these artists were trying to comment on the times, and yet we all, the turbulent 1960s and all. I mean, I feel like that's an angle that hasn't been explored as much about the activism and protest and seeing and of course it's on my brain. As you starfighters may know, I teach language arts and am starting to teach Lorraine Hansberry's play A Raisin in the Sun. So very much focusing on theater as activism in the 1960s. So just that's very much on my brain. I thought about that. I was like, you could, De Niro's still working. We could, but I'm like, I don't know that I want to see like, octogenarian Jon Rubin.
Right.
Like, I don't know that that's the story that needs to be told. I think I'd rather.
And also, Jon Rubin's not making it to 80.
That's probably, who knows? Maybe he gets out of this phase. It would be interesting to see like a 40-year-old Jon Rubin and just like kind of like looking at the pictures and be like, oh boy, you wouldn't believe what I was doing in in late 60s and early 70s. Yeah. Oh, that was a phase. But I feel like now it's kind of it's past. So I think that's what I took away from this. Exploring that world, experiment.
No, I like that.
And it's also relevant now because what is theater do? Because right now we are living in turbulent times, and we're very divided, and not trusting of our leaders. So like, what is theater? How is theater addressing that now in an effective way and in a more immersive way? Not talking Broadway, but talking about things like the Be Black Baby and that like experiential theater. That would be that would be. I'd be interested in that. I would watch it. One ticket.
I like that.
One ticket sold. Make it. What would you do?
There you go. Well, this one was a tricky one to come up with, but a fun thing that I was thinking of would be to have, and I don't know how one would do this, but that's not my department. It's just the idea. But to have a movie or like a one-act play or something like that is about it's Jon Rubin, Travis Bickle, and I forget his character's name from The Deer Hunter, but the three Vietnam De Niros perhaps meeting up in Vietnam. Their platoons interact with one another. Are there any other De Niro in Vietnam movies I'm forgetting?
Actually, he did a film called Jackknife where he plays a veteran.
Oh, Jackknife. I never seen Jackknife.
I have never seen. I have not seen Jackknife either.
Those were the three that I mean, and of course, Hi Mom was an easy one to think of, but like Travis Bickle and his character in The Deer Hunter were the obvious.
Let me ask you this: do you think his character from Meet the Parents was doing CIA stuff down in Southeast Asia at that time?
Probably.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm curious. I'm looking up his character's name in the Deer Hunter. That's a movie. I can't watch that. I don't know if I could ever watch that movie again. That movie.
Surprisingly, I think I could. It's so damn good. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. So he's Mike Vronsky.
Mike.
Yeah.
Mike.
He's Mike.
Yeah. That makes sense. That movie's so good. Walken is amazing in it.
Oh man.
But De Niro's incredible. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, John Cazale.
So yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to see
when they made that. It was sad.
Yeah. But the three of those characters, very different guys.
That would be
Deer Hunter. De Niro is very stoic and responsible and like a good dude. Travis Bickle's a bit of a loose cannon, and then Jon Rubin is just just trying to get by and get out of there as quickly as possible without being noticed.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so interesting to see. The three of them.
Trace De Niro's.
I'm thinking of the scene from the movie Neighbors when Zac Efron and Dave Franco are both dressed.
They have their De Niro party.
They have their De Niro party. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
you pull them from that.
That's really funny. But no, it's not a very serious idea, but this is a movie where it's like, I also just want people to see it. I think that it's one that would be a really fun one to see in a theater full of people. Or, watching it by myself, I felt like I was missing out on an opportunity to instantly talk to somebody about it. So this is one that benefits from being around other people and engaging in conversation as quickly as possible. If all you out there have ideas of how you would revisit it or any thoughts on the movie at all, email us ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com and, leave a comment on the YouTube video or on Spotify, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love to hear from you. Check out ruinedchildhoodspod.com for some cool merch. If anybody wants to do a design for us for maybe the Virgin Mary t-shirt or something.
Or Trace De Niro's.
Trace De Niro's. Yeah. Is that a new tequila?
Right. Yeah.
It's an Italian tequila. It's got basil leaf in it or something.
Oh.
Send us an email, ruinedchildhoodspod@gmail.com. But Dan, in this season where we're talking about movies that have complete sentence titles, what is our next complete sentence title movie?
Our next complete sentence title movie has at least four times the words, and will not make me think of Bamboozled, most likely. And does not star Garrett Graham, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, Dan, I have two questions real quick.
Yeah.
Is it something familiar, and is it something peculiar?
It's something for everybody, John. It's going to be a comedy tonight when we talk about A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum from 1966, directed by Richard Lester, starring Zero Mostel, Jack Gilford, Phil Silvers, Buster Keaton, Michael Crawford. And I have not seen this one in a long time.
Me either.
It'll be fun coming back to it. I can't promise I won't bust out any tunes.
This is an opportunity for us to talk. This will be episode 323.
Yeah.
And we haven't talked about any of these actors before.
No, I know. It's going to be our first time. Zero Mostel.
Have we talked about Lester before?
I don't think so.
Remember.
I don't think so.
Then perhaps this is a first for everybody involved with this production.
It's not a Brian De Palma film, so
it is not a Brian De Palma film. Surprise, surprise. Although I had a hell of a good time talking about him once again.
Oh yeah.
Check back on our other episodes where we talked about his movies. The Sisters one, the Phantom of the Paradise one. They're all great. Or those movies are great. I don't know if our episodes are great, but the
movies are great. So yeah. Check it out.
Well, Dan, as you are attending a performance of Be Black Baby, I wish you a good journey.
Good journey.